that's good for right now. I don't know how much punkin I'm gonna be for a few minutes. I got a bit of a headache that's starting to ease up, and I can't even hardly see. So I didn't really get to finish every little thing I wanted to. I had a few more slides put together just for a little bit about my immigration, like migra, and or whatever it be,
Immigrant.
immigrant, immigrant. Well, won't nothing grow in Oregon?
Was
Like,
you a orange and blue or a green?
say that what?
Well, the the Prattisons were orange and blue was their colors, and the green was for Catholics.
Oh. I thought orange. I thought the Catholics were orange. Maybe it depends on where you were at. The
And there's no blue in nature, according to Granny Deneuve, and that meant you were from the devil. The devil.
well, she wouldn't have liked one of them blue people, then, would she?
No, no.
Oh, bear with
We
me.
have one of them living here, so there's Miss Carol.
Good morning, Miss Carol. How are things in mist again?
How are you? Why are you and Thaddeus Bear this morning?
It's an Irish name. I just put it. I couldn't come up with anything clever. Thaddeus, but Thaddeus is the Irish name for Timothy.
You could be Mac Bear
I
or
could.
Mick Bear
I didn't
or,
think. Well,
or O Bear.
start to use Mick Bear. I started to do that.
You could be O Bear even.
It's a bad day to start. As a guy on an airplane would say, Lloyd Bridges. He was everything had happened. He was in a new state of. Hey, Chuck. He was in a new state of withdrawal or whatever. He picked a bad day to quit smoking. Do you remember Airplane? Yeah, I know you do.
Oh yeah.
Today's a bad day for me to have early.
Don't call me Shirley.
Today's a bad day for me having early headache and my glute muscles are balling up on me already, cramping.
What's the weather doing?
Raining, it's friggin' miserable. It's just
So that's why you got a headache.
that's
Maybe.
exactly why I've got a headache. I've got a brain cloud thing happening. Chuck, hey, Blue Nose, welcome in, Chris. Chuck, are you watching the? We'll start off on another topic for a minute. You watching the international hockey games? And if so, do you have an opinion? I kind of like I think they've been pretty decent tonight. Today's games ought to be real good. Brenda came up here a minute ago, brought me a migraine pill, and so I'm hoping in a few minutes part of this goes away.
Don't you know the PBR's on, dude?
What made you think of that?
Well, you're saying you're watching hockey, and I'm like, don't you know the
Well,
PBR's on?
I can do both if I record it.
You can. You can
Yeah.
do PBR on YouTube.
Well, that's true, and I probably will. I'd like to get caught up a little bit on PBR. So who's winning that?
Well, right now that kid from Australia's number one.
Not Hamilton.
No, not Kai. He's
I
hurt.
know who you're talking about.
He's hurt. God bless America. I can't remember anything.
That's all right.
He just pulled ahead of John Krember. Couple couple of events ago, and he's doing really good.
I did
I'll
see
think of his name here in a little while when I'm not thinking about it, and I'll just pop it in here. But anyway,
just throw it out there, man. You'll know what you're talking about. Good morning, Tina. And you ain't missed nothing yet. It sounds adventurous.
Tina's wrangling hounds again.
Anytime you're wrangling hounds, there's a chance for an adventure.
Hound wrangling can be difficult.
Yes, it can. Or it could lead you off into an adventure.
Or it could lead you off into North Carolina or something, chasing a bear.
Running bears. You guys probably got bears up your way.
You could start out on a coon hunt and end up like chasing bears.
Brenda, thank you for bringing me that pill. I think I'm starting to be able to see better again. Oh man, it's like all the lights. I came in out of the gloom and got in here and turned on all my lights and the computer and everything. Then my head started hurting. I didn't even really notice it at first. I noticed more I wasn't sure how bright. I couldn't see things. Everything seemed too bright. And then I realized I had a headache, and it was, starting to. Because right now I can see so much better than I could just a few minutes ago. I heard the fans in Montreal booed the U.S. national anthem the other night. I didn't watch the game, so I don't know if they did during that game, Chuck. They have though. I mean, it did happen last week I know the last couple of games before the international series started did, but I also heard that Trudeau came out and the other premiers of Canada came out and asked everybody not to do that because despite everything that's going on, they weren't going to act that way. So we'll see. But I've also noticed they've not been showing national anthems and things before the games because I understand down here we've been booing the Canadian anthem also, which is after they booed us, which is we're peeing down each other's leg. Pardon the expression.
Tain, it's hard to stop a dog from chasing a bear.
Yeah, or anything else if it's prone to chase. I'll chase Danny to get him to stop chasing bears.
My honorary granddad from Tennessee used to say, take them dogs down in that corn patch of a night and chase them daggone North Carolina black bears back to North Carolina.
Who was that, Joe?
Joe.
Man, I'm still waiting to see I see a bear walk down through here. I heard that there had been some.
You gotta have bears there.
Well, I've heard they've seen some just west of here. So and I know they're east of here also. So sooner or later, one's going to walk through the yard.
I mean, we even get one wandering across here, out here in the desert, every now and again, and.
Well, up your way, they're probably chasing moose.
and then just a little bit north of me, about 15 to 20 miles, you might find a big bear. But
well, yeah, that kind you really don't want to catch.
You don't want to be chasing them with your hounds.
No, not unless they know what the heck they're doing. I don't know. Do they hunt grizzly with the hounds out there?
No, you can't hunt bears with dogs in Wyoming. You can hunt lions with dogs and bobcats, but not bears. But
they did lions.
I have a neighbor up the road that she runs hounds for lions, and when she first got into it, she turned out her dogs she found these big old tracks up country and turned her dogs out, and turned out they were wolf tracks, not lion tracks.
Oops.
which did not end well for the hounds. So
bet it did not. Chris, there is a chance of all kinds of nasty weather, high winds in some parts. I think that's mostly higher elevations, and there's flooding. What's weird about the flooding is it seems to be more or less on either side of us. We're in this little valley right here where it seems like we get a little bit of protection from some of that, which is what Tennessee East. When I grew up, they told me in East Tennessee we didn't have tornadoes because we were so hilly and mountains blocked all that kind of weather stuff. And I think some of that was true, but boy, it's not. It's really not, and it probably wasn't then either. But because there was
Now,
always
remember that one that went down through Unicoi, down Dix Creek, and down that drainage down towards Unicoi.
I forgot about
when
that.
we were young men, and
Yeah,
it destroyed the all that timber down through there. There wasn't nobody living up in there, thank God. But
Tina's telling me not to jinx myself. Well, that's a good. I'll be. I should be. Maybe after this is over, Tina, I'll put out some kind of sacrifice in the yard and make burn some incense or something. But I've been trying to watch the weather.
you gotta go cut a goat on a rock, dude.
That's really the only way. Well, I know where there's some goats, so I can probably do that.
Yeah, I know a cut goat's a good goat.
That's a good goat.
Same with sheep.
There used to be, yeah. Well, there are.
You could use a sheep instead.
That's probably even more worthy.
Yeah, there's way more of them. So I
But
think.
yeah, I don't want to wish no ill will on anybody. But I was watching Ryan Hall yesterday. I didn't look this morning. He's probably got something out this morning because he said he was going to probably be busy doing something every day because it's so active. And they're calling for he thinks, and he's usually pretty good. He thinks there's going to be another big snowstorm that could bounce along kind of just above us, then turn up into the northeast. So Tina, you might have more snow coming.
Hold your head down.
Tina said I once said we couldn't get flooded, and then we got flooded. Well, that's a good point. I've been flooded, and it's not that much fun. You weren't down there in Smyrna.
We've slept in water.
We have slept in floods.
We've been flooded in tents.
Yeah. And we woke up floating a time or two.
It's like, well, there ain't nothing you can do about it. But we had quite the deal happen out here yesterday. Our son called us. He lives in Green River, east of us here, and there's a part of Interstate 80 goes through 2 tunnels over there through the rocks, and right there along the Green River. And they had a big old giant semi-truck passenger car fiasco happen inside the tunnel.
Oh, never good.
With explosive stuff in the trucks. And there was lots of trucks, and they just kept piling in and piling in and piling in. And at least 2 people are gone. Lots of people hurt, and there were explosions, and it was a bad deal.
Is the tunnel destroyed?
They don't know yet. They couldn't for a long time because there were so many semi trucks. Because I-80's mostly semi trucks, not passenger cars. There were so many trucks piled up there that the fire department and ambulances couldn't even get in there, and it was a daggone mess. And a good buddy of mine, he was taking his daughter to a OBGYN appointment in Rock Springs, and they couldn't get there from here. They got stuck in the traffic jam about 200 yards from the tunnels, and it was just exploding and exploding and exploding, and it was a bad deal.
Oh yeah, I got pictures here of it smoking out the tunnel.
Yeah, it was.
Well, this just says multiple fatalities. It doesn't say if it's just It says at
Well,
least
this
two.
morning they said at least two.
Oh,
And who knows how many people injured. I mean, it was a lot of vehicles.
you know,
And that tunnel's about, I don't know, maybe 300-400 yards long. The part, the tube you go through is about 300 or 400 yards long. And they called Wyoming State Geology in, a whole bunch of folks to like assess the damage. My poor buddy John Edens is he works for YDOT. He's right in the middle of the darn thing. And it's just it's a,
although I'd be surprised if. Well, that's not as long a tunnel then as when you cross up here the mountain here. You've been through the Gap Tunnel, haven't you? Or was it
and the ones on, I don't even remember the
Big
highway
Walker?
name that goes up through Virginia and West Virginia.
Big Walker.
Yeah, it's like a mile and a half or something.
Yeah, and they don't allow trucks with explosive materials to go through them at all.
And these were probably petroleum, some kind of petroleum product, and they were cooking off, and it was a bad deal.
I'm gonna tell you something.
And it closed both sides. I mean, it happened on the westbound lane, the westbound tunnel, but the eastbound tunnel's right next to it. So they're not separated by any distance. It's going through a great big old rock there on the Green River.
Yeah, I could see pictures of it there.
And it's
I'm there side by side.
they close, but my buddy and his daughter, they were eastbound going to Rock Springs. And I've been reading some of the news reports, CBS, etc. And they're like, they don't know the name of the towns that they're talking about. And they don't know the direction that town is from the other town. They're just spewing out BS is what they're doing. But
there's just picture I'm looking at right here. There's just black smoke boiling out of that.
Yeah,
I guess that's the northern. Is that the northern or the southern side tunnel? That's
the north side. The westbound line is on the north side, and there were obviously petroleum products in some of those vehicles. They were, big double semi truck kind of deals, and and then tires were burning and blowing up, and
they don't make black smoke at all.
No, not at all. A tire burns clear.
Just as clear as you can't even see it hardly. I've seen people burn a few tires. That's about as black.
If it's in the black of night and there aren't any stars or nothing, you might not be able to see it.
Yeah, maybe. No light. That can't be any lights whatsoever. Brenda says a friend of hers. I got to get back here and read this. Let's see. A friend of hers husband used to work for a gas company, and he was long haul trucker. She just about spelled that wrong. You need to check your fingers there, Missy. I'll have to censor you. He said that he carried a gun with him because if that thing caught fire, he was going to die. I don't doubt that, because that'd be, if you can't get out of the truck, that'd be a horrible way to go.
Yeah, they were, and these poor people, I just feel so bad for them. And there were, of course, there were little passenger cars trying to pass them in the tunnel and whatnot, and who knows who caused what.
You never know. Tunnels are kind of strange.
The roads have been kind of slick anyway, so it just turned into a bad deal.
Wow. I hadn't heard about that. That's bad. That is.
Well, it's closed. I mean, the interstate's closed indefinitely.
Well, hell, it's closed most of the winters anyway.
Well, but who knows how long this will last? But
yeah,
that means they have to divert. There's a exit east of
Oh,
that.
they're coming by you.
No.
No.
They come by me anyway, but
Oh, but I
they're
thought,
they US 30's like a how you can avoid the way stations and all that kind of stuff. So a billion of them come by here anyway and
gotcha.
kill all my deer. But don't get me started. But anyway, they're diverting through off the east exit to Green River and through town. And so they're going down this little old main street through Green River, Wyoming, and it ain't it ain't fit for giant truck. The number of semi trucks that go down that interstate are insane.
Yeah, I know it's bad. It's like it's a
It's 75 or 80% of the traffic on I-80 is semi trucks, and so they're going to be going through town with stoplights and little kids out there playing, and it's going to be a deal, I think.
well, it is
The
that man.
boys in Green River, the boys that wear badges in Green River are going to be busy, I suspect.
I don't know if you remember this or not, but there was a um up near between God, I want to say between Jonesboro and Johnson City, but it was it wasn't that far away from Mahoney's, you know where that is.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody lived there knew where all us kind of kids knew where Mahoney's was. Anyway,
That's
there was a gas.
all I ever went to.
There was a gas. I don't know what you call depot kind of a place up there before you got to back before. It's probably along what mounts down to a big 4-lane road, Franklin, state of Franklin Road. Anyway, there was a gas terminal there, fuel terminal, and one day we were doing something outside and in the yard or up that way, and there was this big boom, and you looked up that way, which wasn't terribly far away. I mean, a few miles where I was at the time.
Yeah, from your house.
Flames were spewing up into the sky, and black smoke, and it was a fuel truck that had somehow caught fire, exploded, and blew up. And they like to never put that out. And that was out in the open in one truck. Of course, it
Right.
didn't spread, but my God, what a firebomb! What a deal! That just melted everything around it. And that's what's happened a couple of times. That's why I asked about the tunnel, because that's what's happened a few times around some of the interstate bridges, and it just melts all the superstructure. They get hot.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, this tunnel's like, I'm just thinking what they look like. They're going through solid rock, and they're kind of dome shaped on top. These particular tunnels are, and they've got them bricked and mortared. Well, not bricks, but great big blocks.
Yeah.
And I don't know what structure there is that holds that they've got in there to keep the rock up, but they drilled through two, or I mean, they drilled two tunnels through this ginormous rock because there wasn't nowhere else. You either had to go through town or you couldn't go. So, it's quite the deal. It's a cliff. And so the interstate's running right along the base of this cliff, and then you hit this big old rock that juts out in towards the river and the town of Green River. And they drilled through it to keep the highway going. And they did a lot of crazy things on that interstate.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of. I mean,
Like the Snow Chi Men Trail, we call it, where the people of Wyoming said you need to run that interstate right along the existing US 30 route, which was out in the desert and kind of flat country. And they're like, nope, we're going right over that mountain. And that sucker closes down every winter several times a winter, and I mean it just stops the traffic for sometimes up to weeks. So
Yeah, it's not. They don't know. That probably tells me some politician out there had a ranch he didn't want them going through, or
well,
so.
I don't know. The locals were all like, "Do it, go down, go this way. We're okay with the
Yeah, but it
height."
only takes one.
What it was it was like,
Good
um,
morning, Diana.
whoever was in power at that time said, "No, we're going as straight as we can."
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's true too. They do that too. You know, if you took all the trees off back here, you'd see a lot of that too, but not for cars, but for trains.
Right.
They blew. There's ton. I mean, over there where my mom grew up. Hell, there's several. Pardon me, man. I'm headache makes me cuss, guys. Salt Park. That's gotta be what it is.
You must have a
Otherwise, I
headache.
never
You
do it.
must have a headache all the time.
I never do it unless I got a headache. Anyway, I'll get struck by lightning now for sure. The there's everything all down that stretch of track through there. There's tunnels, and we used to walk through the tunnels all the time because that was cool to do. And in fact, got caught in the tunnel a time or two and had to lay down in the gravel, because the train was in there with us. and and even though we had a little bit of room, it still felt like it was a mighty close situation. And my uncles said they did that like it was some kind of rite of passage. And of course my mom said no, they didn't do, because they said they took like her in there and left her and that kind of stuff. But they were a little bit prone to tell tales.
We have friends
That but that was they did
in
that.
Canada that have joined us.
Oh yes, we have at least one Canadian friend.
Of course, you don't like horse trailers, so.
Well, I got a sad tale. I know a little bit of a sad story. They went to a big, last weekend they were going to an RV show, and Mike said they did not come home with a horse trailer. So,
oh man,
I don't know.
It was as close as it. Did they have any there? I wonder. I bet they just had RVs.
No, I didn't really get to ask him that. That's a good question.
I bet it was just RVs. If you want to find them fancy horse trailers, you go to the high school national finals rodeo, and you'll see a billion of them.
I bet. I didn't even think about that.
And those kids, their parents must, all of them, seems like. I know there's regular kids there competing, but most of the kids, it seems like they're hauling horses all across the country, and they have some bank. They're all pulling their horse trailers with semi tractors, and it's like, oh, your parents have like real money.
Well, Diana just is not going to budge on that.
No horse trailer.
My goodness. You want?
What if we called a stock trailer?
What?
What if we just called a stock trailer?
That might help. I've got a funny
feeling.
Or
a dog trailer.
Maybe a dog trailer, because I got a feeling they still know.
Still no.
I got a feeling it's got anything to do with livestock. It ain't happening. You may not.
She's never going to have a trailer that's got slats in the back so that a critter can stick its head out and breathe or whatever. It's never
going to happen. I think there might be, maybe part of that might be that she ain't taking no chances on buying a horse. That could be part of it.
Well, like I said, I got plenty. You don't have to buy them.
Just come out there and ride.
But if you want to come haul them around, you got to maybe bring a trailer. Still,
and while you're hauling them around, you might come up with some new places to drop them off, like at their house.
Well, not mine. Not mine. You're not gonna.
No, not yours. No, yours are at your house. I'm talking about the ones that are visiting. Anyway, when I was in high school, and a couple years after that was the energy crisis started, and the coal boom hit, what we call the coal boom, when all those coal miners and everybody and their brother had a coal streak in their backyard, and suddenly, they became millionaires. But there were high school kids up there that lived in the mountains there, Kentucky, Virginia, and this actually north of here, Tennessee, just along the state lines. But there were high school kids that were going out and buying brand new Peterbilt type tractor trailers, which back then were $100,000. Now they're probably several $100,000. But they would buy one of those, and one of those big dump truck beds trailers, the big ones that you pull with a semi.
And go make $1 bazillion.
I talked to one guy who had family up there. He said they paid for those things just in a couple of months. And some of those kids now, high school kids, had two or three of them.
Yeah.
Of course, that also led to some of them dropping out of high school because why would they need an education? And then the coal went bust, and that was the end of that. But they were out buying those things and paying cash for them, or paying them off in 2 or 3 months because they were making so much money hauling coal. It was unbelievable. That was nuts. And every one of those guys had at least one helicopter that he could fly over and park it in his backyard, and if he got hungry at lunch, and this is no joke, I'd fly it down to the nearest McDonald's and land and cause all kinds of disruption, go in and get them something to eat, and then take off and go back home. It was crazy.
And I was riding through the drive-thru on my horse. Literally.
Was that back here or out your way?
No, back there, I was riding old Dusky down to the drive-thru, and they'd be like, "What in the world are you?"
I thought I used to get funny looks on my motorcycle.
I got way funny looks all the time.
Well, you probably
and then Lisa started doing it after I left. So
well, good. Brenda wanted to know if you got him a pup cup.
I don't know what that is.
Well, that's a lot of the places now.
Why are we talking about horses?
Well, Diana, well, because we're trying to ease you along.
Because their name is Shunkawakan, which means God's dog.
That's right.
That's why we talk about him.
Yes, Chris. That's one of my favorite movies. And I knew some people actually that were involved, worked in some of that.
I have that movie too. That's a wonderful movie.
Really good movie. But what was I going to? Oh, a pup cup. Starbucks, I think, might have started it. But if you've got a dog in your car, they can give you like a cup of whipped cream, which is, I guess, dog safe, and you can get that and feed your dog, give it to your dog, keep him out of your cappuccino, I guess. So you could probably get one for a horse.
That's just
Nine horses.
No wonder people's dogs are this big around.
Well, that's true too.
And they're that long.
We're talking about horses, Diana, because we're trying to let you see that they're such a fluid topic.
They're such a magical creature.
And the one that was so magical, he tried to throw my head through the barn's upper floor of the barn one day. Of course, then I found out my cousin had whacked him across the hind section.
Yeah, there you go. Wasn't his fault.
I probably didn't need to be on him in the stable anyway, but oh my goodness. My headache's easing up a little bit.
Well, you know what Dad would say? If I had a head that looked like that and it didn't ache, I'd go get it checked.
I hadn't heard that in a while. I forgot about that. Carol said you could. Carol said you could have asked for a pony cone. Of course, the machine would probably. Isn't that the truth, Carol? I went in McDonald's. I bet 3 weeks in a row, and I was going to get something like a hot frappuccino or something because I like their coffee. I don't like stuff like that in my coffee as a rule, but their coffee I usually and Starbucks too. I usually put something in it, mocha or something, because I don't like it the way it is. But anyway, and that machine was broken for weeks, and they'd say, "Well, we can give you a cold one." I said, "Well, hell, I didn't really want a cold one," but anyway.
That ain't right.
Oh my! I'll tell you a story. Well, since you brought it up, Blue Nose, we're gonna chase the squirrel. I'll tell you a fun story about that movie. Um, when our kids were still in high school, I think it was Jennifer, and she was in the band. Somebody got the idea in the band that we were doing fundraisers, and of course, they always sold Krispy Kreme donuts and we sold every year at Christmas. We took a truck down to Florida and brought back oranges and tangerines, citrus fruit, and sold that for the band. And but one year we wanted to do something different, so we thought, well, why not rent the Tennessee Theater downtown Knoxville, which was a big deal, and we'll get the movie October Skies, and we'll show that movie, and we'll because I know whoever it was that brought this up said I know a guy that was part of the movie, and maybe he'll come in and just talk about it. So we ended up doing that, and we got 2 or 3 of the people who were actually in the movie to now not any of the big actors, of course. We probably spent all the money we made for that, but so that was kind of cool. They came in because there were some local guys that handled trains and knew about trains and different parts of the railroad that were probably because TVA hauled so much coal out of some of that country or bought it. They didn't haul it, but they bought it. Anyways, they were involved in some of that, so that was really neat. Brenda, do you remember that? I don't know if you were down there that day or not when we did it, but I was. I think I was taking up tickets or something. Starbucks tastes burnt. Yes, it does, Tina. I think it tastes bitter, and I don't like it. I never have liked it unless I can water it down or something. I'll drink their espresso sometimes, but other than that, and like I said, I don't drink flavored coffee or put sugar in my coffee or milk or anything. And I have to do something to theirs because I don't like it. Now, I will confess that I've not been there to drink their. I don't know that I've ever tried their blonde roast and some of their newer stuff, but so that might be more better. I can hear the rain. It must there for a minute. It was really coming down. So I hope we don't get that much. Dan, I don't want to spend all my money learning about roast, which roast I like. Well, there's probably a valid point. I don't know.
Hillsbrother or Folgers in a red can. You can't go wrong.
Oh, me.
Don't get uppity in your coffee likes.
Well, I'm kind of uppity in my coffee likes, so I have that problem.
Uh-oh. I don't know what happened. Where'd he go? Apparently I'm in the show, but he isn't.
Yeah. Somebody hit the wrong button this morning, but I don't know why. That never happens. The morning blend is good for True North. I don't even know if we get True North. That might be something they just give you Canadians. What else did I?
I'm in charge.
You were
I
in charge.
get to talk about Ulster Scots then.
Well, we're going to, and that's what I'm getting ready to pull up. And like I said, I didn't get to finish stuff, so some of this I'm going to wing. And I wanted to, bring up all the usual slides, and then we'll do that. Let me
Winging it.
Where is that? Oh, well, a little bit. Not really winging it, but I may not have all my. I was trying to print out some information and facts, and I was getting blinded, so I couldn't really finish that.
Well, we didn't start the whole topic till yesterday afternoon. So.
Well, that's true, but okay. You guys can't see anything. Why can't you?
You're on a wing and a prayer.
Oh, there it is. I guess I picked the wrong thing. There we go. And I'll explain these three pictures.
Tina, if he's praying, lightning's getting ready to strike down there somewhere.
You do know me well.
I do know you well.
Okay, where was I at with so there? Oh, I was going to do the normal slides.
Oh, you had to put his head in there.
Well, just temporarily, mind you.
Didn't like that son of a buck.
I don't either, but he is one of them.
He is one of our people.
Yeah, he is. And as bad as I hate to say it, he was. And I used to think he was a hero, and I guess in some things he was, but boy, he sure wasn't in a lot of other things.
He was hard on a lot of folks.
He sure was. So anyway, hit that like button, and I learned something this week or last week. Maybe I've already mentioned this, but if you put in a comment, if you put 7 words,
you told us this last week. You told us this
last week. Okay, put 7 words in. A happy belated Valentine's Day to everybody out there. And I sure didn't get anything that looked like any chocolates that looked like this. Hint, hint. Of course, you didn't either, did you? I guess I shouldn't hint too loud. Anyway, hope everybody had some semblance of Valentine's Day if you celebrate such a thing. And if you don't, that's okay too.
We had shrimp scampi for supper, and that was wonderful.
Well, that sounds pretty tasty.
My beautiful bride made shrimp scampi, and that was wonderful.
So Mark came up. Mark said yesterday, I was talking to him. He said, I said, I don't remember how it came up. He said, let's talk about the Ulster Scots. So I'm going to attempt to do that. Like I said, we started late, but I worked on it last night. And then I was trying to do a little bit this morning, and that's when I got this headache, and I had to back off. But basically, the Ulster Scots, in many ways, turned into the Scotch Irish American, as the ones
and Canadians,
I was going to say that, and Canadians, and but they don't call. It also made a point to say that they don't. In the UK, they don't refer to them in the same way, which I thought, well, who cares? That's why they left the UK. But anyway, and some people call them the Scots Irish, and they spell it Scotch, like Scotch the drink, but when they do it that way, or some people do. And basically what this map is representing is the one down at the bottom kind of shows some of the migration routes, and I just drew those in. And the one on the right shows where some of the family names came from that became the Scots, the Ulster Irish, that moved from the UK, from England, basically, or not England, Scotland, the border area. A lot of them came from the border area. And, I did learn one thing. A lot of these people moved because the Brits were moving them, which I knew some of that, and it was
they wanted them out of there. They were cattle reavers.
Well, they
They
were
were thieves
troublemakers,
of cattle.
and they were all, and they wanted their own independence and all that stuff too, on top of everything else.
Which I mean, the Reavers that was a profession in Scotland. Highlanders and Lowland people both participated in, like Rod Roy. He was a Reaver.
Hey, John.
They were cattle thieves.
Well, and
the Englishers, as Ernest T. Bass would say, Englishers, they wanted them. The king was saying, this is a good way to get rid of these people.
Well, here's the thing. Part of that also, they were also trying to get more control of Ireland.
Exactly.
So they were also sending them over there to beat down the Irish people at the same time. So it's no wonder they still don't get along worth it.
And it was all strategery, and that's why there's so many Protestants in Northern Ireland.
Right, because mostly they were Presbyterians, or
they were Presbyterians. Yep.
So that there was a lot of that going on, and that's why it's still controversial to this day, in large part.
And my people came from Invereshie, in the Highlands, but they were part of this bunch that went to Ulster.
There were a lot of border people and a lot of lowlands people, and I've got that somewhere if I can pull it up. But there were also Highlanders that were part of this deal and moved or got moved.
And the cool thing about it is that this happened even 300. So this happened in like the 1600s, this particular wave. But Robert the Bruce in the 1300s also did the same thing from Scotland. And I don't know when my folks got over there, if they went with that first wave or the second wave, but.
Well, the people that I've tracked, my ancestry that I've tracked back so far, I had both Scots and as recent as my great grandfather. Well, might have been three greats. He was my grandmother's grandfather, I think, on my dad's side of the family. He came over just after the potato famine. I don't know if he was ever a northern. I don't think he came out of this group of Ulster people. I think he just came over straight as Irish, and because he was Roman Catholic, which
right.
When he moved into the mountains down here of East Tennessee, where he's at or where they're at, I think that had to be just a strange situation for people like him, because there weren't any Catholics down in there back then.
So Ulster was those counties in Ulster. My people come from Antrim, County Antrim.
Oh, I know where Antrim's at. I got a story about Antrim in here.
They were in Northern Ireland, and then they migrated to the U.S. in the 1700s, or probably the early 1730s, somewhere in there.
Let me read.
And then those are the people that became hill people. I mean, they went right to the hills. They went to the frontier and went to the hills, and which probably looked a lot like where they came from. But
let me read a quick piece here I had about this. It says the Ulster Scots people, or some people call them the Scots Irish, because of where they moved in once they were moved to Ireland. They're basically an ethnic group descended largely from the Scottish and Northern English border settlers who moved to the northern province of Ulster in Ireland, mainly during the 17th century, as you were saying, the 1600s. There's an Ulster Scots dialect of the Scots language. Historically, there has been considerable population exchanges between Ireland and Scotland over the millennia. This group are found mostly in the province of Ulster. However, their ancestors were Protestant settlers who migrated over. You know, and a lot of them did migrate to get out of it for the same reasons that the British didn't want them there. They left to get away from that too. And the I don't know then. I don't know if Britain was still Catholic as before Henry VIII or if it was after, but all that stuff, none of that helped. Um, and what was interesting was not some of them weren't there that long before they started moving on over here,
Right.
and then into Canada, and then there's actually there were actually some British settlements or some British land, I guess in Brittany and in France, where some of them went also, and I didn't really know that, and I don't know if I put that in here or not, but I did read about it, and I probably have got it. I just got to find it. I had looked just a little bit more. They, as you pointed out, they moved, or we said they moved here. So just a few generations after arriving in Ulster, considerable numbers of Ulster Scots immigrated to the North American colonies of Great Britain. Between 1717 and 1775, that number should ring a bell for that year. Over 100,000 migrated to what became the United States of America. And then, of course, some of those folks then left and went to, after as Britain took control of New France in the 1750s, which is Canada, they started moving in up there. Some of them left here and went up there, actually. I got a number here. It says in the census of 1790, which might have been the first official U.S. census ever done. There were, where's my number? If I'm reading this right, and I don't know if I put the right number, it says there were approximately 4 million they think may be living here by that point. I don't know what, or maybe that's the total U.S. population. Well, where's the Scots? I had the Scots number in here somewhere. Well, I've lost it. I may pick it up on another sheet, so hang on. La da 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 da. Da 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 da. Got too many sheets open here. I've been doing too many things. Okay, so anyway, they came over. Let me run through a couple more of my slides real quick, Mark, and then some of this will catch up. And this, I put this in here because this comes up a lot, especially these days, people looking for ancestry. And this is just a map that shows a large area where a lot of the lowland Scots came over, the border people, and where they came over and where they settled in Ulster, which is basically Northern Ireland today, and and the names of those people. So you may find your name in there, and then there's a couple of other maps, and this gives you a kind of an idea how Ulster was divided at that time. And Northern Ireland is still at the top of the Republic of Ireland now. And it sort of sits in there, and it's got actually pretty much surrounded by it, except for the sea. And then I found this, which I thought was kind of interesting. There's a statue in County Antrim, Mark. It's at, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, either Lawrence Curran Park, and it was designed to represent the typical Ulster family that left there and came over here. And there's a father and a mother and a son. And I thought it was interesting, and this has actually made me think. They made a point of talking about this, but the woman, the wife, I'm sure, assume, is carrying a huge, big old Bible. And I just wonder how many family Bibles of former or Scots Irish or Scots Irish American and Canadian still have that Bible they brought from Scotland. Scotland to Ireland and then over to here. Because, man, you talk about some history. I've got a Bible that was left to me by my parents that is kind of falling apart, and I wanted to get rebound. And it looks kind of like that. I'm starting to wonder if I need to look at that a little closer. But an interesting thing about that, and I think I've got a picture here, was the Wyoming Massacre or the Battle of Wyoming Valley in Pennsylvania, in which the British had gotten the natives to help them attack, and they attacked that area because the Brits were trying to get more control of the frontier. And they said a lot of those families, because there were a lot of Scots Irish apparently settled in that valley, and they said a lot of these Bibles got destroyed. So family history that might have gone back generations, if not centuries, may have been burned during that time period, which I never thought about. And then I just threw this in there because there's a lot of parts of the upper northeast United States and down here where the Scotch heritage or the Irish and the mix thereof is still very strong. And that may be the last picture I had. So I can turn that off unless anybody wants to see something else. Tim, find the right page here. There you are. So anyway, and I can't talk. My mouth's so dry. Let me get a drink of water. So I mean, it's kind of. I always read about the Wyoming massacre or battle, depending on how you read it, which was a pretty big deal at the time. And I never really put that together about the Scots Irish that lived there. And then I never thought about something like a family Bible that might have been brought over, because that back then people kept all their family records in Bibles. In fact, my family did that right down to at least me. And for some strange reason, that's probably stopped here. Anyway, so I've got the front pages of those Bibles often even had charts that showed descendants and who bought the Bible maybe, and everybody from there down. Right. And I've seen a couple of those, but I never paid attention if they went back that far, how far they went back.
Long way.
Some of them did.
Yep. And so they talked about the Ulster Scots, the Scots Irish moved to, when they came to America or when they came to the US, most of them started in Pennsylvania, and then a lot of them immediately went to Western Virginia, which today would be West Virginia, which is where my people went. And then they started migrating south and occupied all the basically Appalachia. German migrants and Ulster Scots populated. Yeah, me too.
That's me from almost all the way back. Oh, by the way, with
the occasional native woman getting mixed into the mix, and that was just like, because there weren't a lot of them, but they went all the way through the Appalachians, and went to, I guess the people in the Ozarks are that way too. And
that makes sense if you think about it.
They always went to mountain country, wooded mountain country.
They wanted to be away from other people. I think they wanted to be, I guess that old left alone mentality even existed then, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it had something to do with the fact that they also a lot of them raised sheep and goats and They still did that kind of stuff. I don't know, although that probably died out a lot once they got here anyway. But before I forget it, Mark, one John, I think they just mentioned it, but I saw John in another stream last night, and he had announced that his daughter got engaged last night.
Holy buckets.
And so his wife was on the phone crying about it, and everybody was all excited. And John says, "I don't know why." He said, "I'm getting calls from well wishers." He said, "I don't know why I'm not getting married." No, but I bet you helped pay for it. I bet you that. At
Yeah,
least
yeah,
I
yeah.
know it cost me a fair bit of money. Let's go that. And I had one do it twice, so I told her that was it. That was plenty.
He
But yeah,
better fish,
congratulations,
John.
John.
He better be a fisherman.
Yeah, I haven't heard. I don't know much about him. You need to tell us about him sometime, John. With that, yeah, that all just happened. And John, I don't want to step on your storyline or anything, but I believe John mentioned that last night. I think didn't you say that he called you before he did it to ask permission or to at least talk about it, which doesn't happen a lot these days. I'm not even sure I did, but Kelly's husband, Brad, actually came to me before he proposed to her and asked, or maybe Brenda and I both, but he asked permission. So, which I never given much thought to until he did it, and then it was kind of like, well, that's cool. Hey, thanks. I don't know. There's just something about that, which, like I said, that's kind of fallen out of favor in many ways. But anyway, congratulations, John. I hope everything works out for the best for her and them. Do you know when the wedding is, John? Are we looking out a ways, or are we looking at soon, or do you need me to bring up? No, I'm not even gonna say that. Not even gonna say that. Strike that thought from my brain. That might be just one bridge too far. Um, Anyway, that was good. Last night, everybody was patting him on the back and congratulating him because we have another acquaintance that does internet stuff, Mark, and he did a 24-hour stream yesterday. He stayed on for 24 hours to raise money for the American Stroke Association because his dad died of a stroke not too long ago, and I don't know about in my family. If you go back a couple of generations, maybe the one before me, but it seemed like everybody I knew either died of a stroke or had a stroke and couldn't walk or talk or do things. It's not as I don't hear about it as much these days as I used to. So I think they must have learned. I mean, they're learning how to treat people. They know what causes it more, and I mean, all kinds of things can cause a stroke because basically it's blockage to the brain, blood flow, and that sort of thing. But anyway, he raised last I heard he'd raised close to $11,000, and I went to bed or didn't go to bed. I went back down to the house and didn't turn it back on. I forgot to. I meant to. But anyway, that's a different story. Why is my I don't know what you guys see. What do you see when I'm on there? Nothing. Test.
Let's
Hmm.
see. Us too.
For
That's
some reason on my screen, my avatar, my bear, is not showing up today. I don't know why. Hmm. Anyway, I didn't think about it, Mark. I've read, geez, I don't know how many books I've read about the Wyoming massacre and that led to almost the destruction of a lot of those tribes back then too, because once the Americans got PO'd about that, and to get rid of and fighting the British too, they basically marched through there and burned those villages and burned their crops and ran a lot of those tribes out. Tina said he'd raised $11,039.73 last night, so good for him.
so
Uh,
my grandpa several times removed, was with the 8th Pennsylvania.
The
Rev,
Revolution,
Rev War, not Civil War, Rev War.
The Revolution,
They
right?
were formed at they were their outfit was built, their regiment was built
Hey, Ian, welcome back, buddy,
at Fort Pitt,
or welcome in.
and they were just supposed to stay on the frontier and fight Indians, basically. And Washington needed them for the defense of Philadelphia. So they got to go back and go to Paoli and Germantown and all these cool battles. And then they wintered with Washington at Valley Forge. And in all of them, most of those outfits stayed there through June, and they sent my grandpappy's boys back to the frontier in March, saying you probably ought to go back to the frontier.
March is a really good time to be traveling through the mountains and up into that.
Yeah, well, they walked over there the year before in January in moccasins, but he sent them back to the frontier, and he said, while you're at it, go up and burn all these Seneca towns, which I have in my bloodline, that those people.
Mm-hmm.
So I had one relative fighting other relatives, but they went because of Wyoming, the Wyoming massacre. That's when they went up and made it difficult for the Iroquois people, and burned all their towns and their, whatever.
And later they also moved through the Ohio, Kentucky country and burned down all the Shawnee villages and did pretty much the same thing. That was sort of how they.
Well, they were a semi-agrarian people that needed corn and all that stuff, and so they, took away their supplies.
Well, we're talking Rev War at the moment, John, because we were talking about some of Mark's relatives who were Scotch-Irish American who fought,
and Germans,
Germans who fought during that time. And I had similar ancestors who did the same things. I don't know all the details, but one of the things I do know, and this is relative to that topic, is I have a relative who settled in Lebanon, Pennsylvania, which I'm not sure exactly how that relates to Wyoming Valley. I think it might be east, but he was known for his what they called a fort, which was like a stone blockhouse that he built because he came over. He was most likely more German than Irish, and he was a mason. So they are not. Well, I guess he was a stonemason, and he actually built this large building that was all stone, which was really good to keep from getting burned out in. And it had some really cool features I'll talk about in a minute, but they built that because of those same Indian wars, or part of that. And all the people from that area around Lebanon would go to, I think it's called, Brenda, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's still called, or was called, the oh crap, I can't remember his name, but they called it the Stone Fort, and it's still there. And I got to get up there someday and go see it because it's family. It's back a couple of generations, but it's family on my mom's side. And what was really cool about that particular fort was there was a series of underground caves and things in that area, which is common. And there were tunnels that left. They tunneled out, and you could get. I think they said it was as much as a half a mile away from the fort to enter those tunnels. They kept them hidden and secret, and people could actually get into the fort underground if they got stranded. They didn't have to try to run that last half mile or whatever it was to get in. They could go through those tunnels and get there, which is really cool. And now those tunnels are mainly closed, but the underneath part, which was part of it, I guess you could say, and where they came into, is still there. And somebody had built a winery there for a while. Now I think there may be a small brewery there now, local. If there is, I got to get up there and sample their wares. Well, John, where I come, most people used to tell me that on part of Mom's family were Dutch, either Dutch Irish or Dutch, I guess German Dutch or Dutch German. I can't remember how they used to say that. Um, so I had some of those same people too that came out of that area. I don't know I don't know if they ever settled in New York. I think most of we've ancestors that we've followed or found, and this is true for Brenda too, started out in the Pennsylvania area, and then a lot of them moved down into Virginia and eventually into Tennessee and North Carolina, in Western North Carolina. Like I said, on my dad's side, his great grandfather, I think that's right. It might have been his great, but I think it's just great grandfather. No, maybe it is his great, my three great. And yeah, that probably makes more sense. And then my grandmother's great grandfather came over during right at the end of the potato famine. And they settled all the way down here. So, which probably means they already had kinfolk that lived in this area. Not too far from here, 50 miles probably now. We used to live closer. I don't think I need that open. Anyway, it's an interesting group of people, and that's that whole Scots Irish thing, or Scotch Irish, depending on how you want to look at it, say it. That still has a lot to do with how we talk. Because we were discussing that yesterday also. I asked Mark if he could give me the definition of the word wretched, because my wife is all the time using this word, and then she gets mad at herself for using it. But down here, that don't mean to vomit. That means to reach up and get something. Like I might say, Mark reached up the other day and grabbed that big old thing up on that out. I know I'll give you a better one. Mark reached up last week and grabbed a hawk in his chicken house. Now look at his hands. And then he might have reached after that, but it was funny. I looked that up yesterday, and I couldn't really find a definition that defined retch as we tend to use it down here. But I found the other definition for it. But anyway, that's how.
There
it is right there. The culprit.
He had at least 4 talons buried right to the hilt in my fingers.
And if you don't think they're not sharp, people, let me tell you.
I mean, buried. One of them tried to blow up on me last night, but I think I got it turned around.
Well, that's good, because puncture wounds are bad to do that.
They're interesting.
Tina says her dad claimed that they were descendants from Mary Queen of Scots. Well, you never know. They may be. I mean, you may be. That's quite possible.
And there weren't. I mean, the population of humans then wasn't nothing like today.
No, I mean, it wasn't nearly spread out.
And you certainly could have been who knows who. I had a relative that helped. His position in England was Lord of Horse.
Lord, oh really?
Sorry. Diana, but I'm going to talk about a horse again. Which meant he was an officer in the cavalry, and he rode around with Cromwell, and they got rid of Charles I, as I recall. They were kingslayers.
Well, Cromwell was also involved in the Ulster settlement or plantation area. They went over there and wiped out a bunch of the Jacobites that were trying to, I guess, create the uprising to bring back James, the whichever number he was,
Right.
to be king of all, Ireland, Scotland, and England, which the Brits didn't want nothing to do with.
Yeah.
And Cromwell, I read that yesterday too. Cromwell went to Northern Ireland and slayed and carried on and did all that kind of stuff to those people.
Diana's okay as long as my horse.
Well, Diana, let me ask you a question. You can answer this.
Go ahead and ask a question.
Well, I'm just wondering if maybe the problem is she don't want people to see the horse trailer in front of her house. What if you parked the horse trailer, say, in Mark's yard, and you just came down, picked it up down there whenever you wanted to go somewhere, travel? You could just drive down and pick it up. And, you got to have a truck to haul it with anyway. Ian said, wait, I was 13 minutes behind. How come no one told me? About what, Ian? Which part? Oh, tradition isn't dead. I had to ask mother. Oh, his mother-in-law, father-in-law, not in the picture. Well, Ian, you got to catch up, buddy. You just gotta. You're there. You ask questions. That's what we're here about. This is all about answering questions.
The horse comment confused him.
Yeah, well, the horse question has got.
It's always threaded through here.
That goes back a few weeks, maybe even a few months, when Mark and I, when Diana, mostly her husband, Mike, they started talking about wanting a trailer or maybe a mobile home or something to travel around and do a little, sightseeing. And Mark and I thought that the new horse trailers with living quarters would be a really good idea, and it just kind of keeps popping back up in some of the Saturday conversation. But we ain't getting on with it, but we're not making any ground. Diana's standing strong, no horse trailer. Period, apparently. She just ain't going to even talk about it.
So I got an Ulster Scot and a photograph here. Actually, 3 Ulster Scots that were my relatives. And the gal on that side right there is my great-grandmother.
Wow. How old is that?
Her name is Nicey McLeish, and she was a Kentucky girl that was a Ulster Scot. And she's the one that made me retch up and get when I was being naughty, she'd make me retch up and cut my own switch.
Because that's what grandmothers and mothers did.
She was a great big tall. For a woman, she was a pretty tall, thin, skinny, redheaded woman. Although when I knew her, it was silver. And she'd make me, if I got out of control, go down to the willow tree and cut my own switch.
Maybe it didn't happen ever, but that was a form of punishment.
It didn't happen very often. She didn't have to do that to me very often, but she had a great big old 4-poster kind of a bed that had brass pointy brass
corner posts.
I don't even know what you'd call it, but the corner posts were brass legs. It was a brass frame, and it had these big, tall, spiky things on the top. I got a big scar I got a big scar right here on my head from landing on one of those wrestling with my cousins one time. I'm sure I got to go cut a switch for that one. And then my dad's little brother Dale could make her more angry than any human on the planet. Aggravate her till she got just mad, and she was just had a terrible Scottish Irish temper. And I can remember seeing her standing on her front porch, which that photo's taken in front of, standing on her front porch, and she had a great big ginormous mug of coffee in her hands, and Dale was aggravating her. And she took that cup and just like mashed it on his head. He just got home from Vietnam. He just got home from Vietnam. It was like, he's like that. And we called her Granny, but.
I think Ian just got in trouble. He said, my wife is never stubborn. And then he said, never know if she's looking over my shoulder. And then he went silent after the or. I feel like he didn't finish that sentence.
Maybe he got hit by a big old coffee.
I got hit by a coffee cup. Growing up as we did, part of the punishment wasn't just getting a spanking or a lashing or whatever you want to call it. The switch, as my mom called. Part of the punishment was making you go get the switch.
Going to get the weapon that you're going to get beat with. And it better be a good one.
I know your grandmother, whoever was like my mother, if it wasn't the right kind of switch, you got in even more trouble. So you had to select well. You had to choose well, as they said in the Indiana Jones movie.
He chose poorly.
And he got beat twice. Yeah, parents never seemed to understand that getting sliced while you were.
We were talking about how we look at that fondly now. I don't recall having been emotionally scarred by any of those.
Not that but maybe that does. If you watch my show, our show, maybe that explains a lot. Tina says parents never seem to understand that getting sliced while you were horse playing should have been punishment enough. Exactly. I mean, sometimes that led to stitches, and that was no fun. What they think we were doing, just having fun, enjoying that pain. Tina, and then Ian said, "No coffee cup. My sweet little grandmother had a big wooden spoon." I don't know if I ever got whacked with a wooden spoon or not. My mom certainly had a couple. She could have.
You remember those, that paddle that you'd get with the rubber band on it and a ball, and you could. My mom had one of those on the top of the refrigerator.
Yeah, mine did too.
And she could wield that thing like a samurai sword, as a comedian once said.
That was a fun. I don't care if you like him or not. That's one of the funniest stories he ever told.
She turned that sucker sideways where she caught you with the edge.
Tina, that is not good. I would have gotten. My mom would probably got in trouble if she had one of those, because I could see my back end being ripped. Not that I was a bad kid, mind you.
It was not. It was. Ian, it wasn't the paddle ball. It was just the paddle.
Just
the ball broke off within like 3 or 4 days.
And I'll tell you something else that was kind of interesting about that paddle ball situation. That paddle was somewhere along the way. There must have been a secret stockpile of them paddles that kids didn't know about. Because if you stole the paddle or something happened to the paddle, there seemed to be
always a paddle that showed up.
Yeah, there's always seemed to be another one not far behind. Dan says I was very well behaved until he left and took it with him. Well, that does make a difference, Tina. Oh, I thought she could get you with that ball.
No,
That
no,
would
no,
be
no.
interesting. She could pick you off from across the room with that
No,
ball.
it was the paddle.
Around here, and I never heard it.
Yardsticks too. Occasionally a
Oh
yardstick.
yeah, yeah,
Big
yardstick.
old heavy duty yardstick.
The that funny thing, that ball and paddle deal, I never heard it called this. I don't even know what we called them. But around Knoxville, some people at least that I've known and met call that a Bobo paddle. I'm not sure. Maybe it had Bobo the clown on it or something. I don't know. But I never heard it called that until down here.
Yeah, me neither.
And the guy was talking about using that ball to, reach out across the room and get your
And
attention.
whack you from afar.
So if they were good, they could probably do that. But my mom preferred a good switch, at least during the summertime. We called it Bolo. Oh, well, there you go. Maybe that's where the Bobo came from down here. The yeah,
And
and
that leads me into all the cool stuff we used to have. Remember them knocker balls? You had that deal.
Clackers.
Yeah.
Brenda and I just saw some of those on TV the other night.
Kill a man with one of those, and the what they have them daggone lawn darts.
Oh yeah,
which we ended up just like throwing up in the air and dodging them.
I wonder how. It's funny they didn't come up with that during the initial experimentation and testing when they built those things. Hasbro or whoever sold yard darts.
I don't mean to be squirreling on us, but we had this great big weed that grew in all the horse fields. We called horse weeds.
Oh yeah, I know what
that. Great big old tall. They got like 8 feet long,
and usually great.
If the ground was wet, you could just reach over and grab one of those and pull it up out of the ground. It'd have a big old dirt clod on the end of it. And it was always like perfectly made as a javelin.
Made great spear.
And your cousin could be running like 30 yards away, and you could hypothetically, and you could whack him in the back with it and knock him clear off his feet.
we called them pigweeds or hogweeds too. And
yeah, pigweeds, hogweeds, horseweeds.
And they grew so straight. I mean, they were just straight as an arrow.
They were a perfect spear.
They were a perfect spear. Yes, they were.
I don't know why we're talking about Oster Scots and went into this topic.
Because
beatings.
Because of ritual punishment. It probably came over from the old country. Oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, you read like Two Little Savages, for instance.
Yeah.
They were Irish people, or maybe Scots Irish people from up in Canada. And they always talked about, I'll use the rawhide on you. If I catch you killing songbirds, I'll use the rawhide on you.
Well, since we've walked down this path, I mean, I'm sure you would not see these things. I wonder if there's a museum somewhere out there set aside that nobody really talks about, kind of like the ball of mud, the house of mud, or the ball of string, where there's
the world's largest ball of twine.
I wonder if there's like a roadside attraction of paddles that have been retired from schools, because I mean, this is no joke. Now, I knew teachers in Jonesboro that really had some interesting paddles. There was a
that the Eagle shop teacher had made just for them,
and they were they could be wooden, or they could be leather, which was a favorite. And that we had a teacher in Jonesboro that had one that was split. So when he whacked you with it, it was almost like getting whacked twice. in one blow. And then, I mean, and I'm pretty sure corporal punishment is over in schools as a rule. I just wonder if out there somewhere all those paddles are just laying there being unused.
Well, I got my last one as a senior in high school, and I'm trying to think of
Really hard.
Max's last name. It don't matter. My drafting teacher.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
Me and Danny Kent were like cutting up in class one day, not doing what we were supposed to be doing, and he's like, "Boys, you need to come out here," and he whacked us both, and the shop teacher had made his paddle for him, and it was like a double-handed baseball bat. Look, it wasn't a baseball bat; it was like a big flat paddle, but it was long and full of holes. And you could hear it whistling at you when
That whole full of hole thing was so it didn't, there wasn't no air cushion to get in the water.
you couldn't. It had more aerodynamic ability.
Yeah. Oh my God. I think 3/4 of that whole paddle thing was the intimidation of just seeing it come out, knowing you were going to get white, and it looked like that, for example.
And it often just sat in a corner over there where you could see it all the time.
In plain sight. My 6th grade teacher had one of these little bitty short canoe paddle looking things. That was what she liked to build, and could do so pretty effectively. And she was not an old teacher. Most of the teachers I knew that really paddled were the older ones, but she could. Yeah, she didn't use it a lot, but boy, when she used it, you knew it.
You were like, okay, I won't do that again.
Tina said we had a teacher who threw books, which should just be wrong from the beginning.
And just chairs on occasion.
On occasion. She didn't have a job on weekends as a WWW wrestler or something, did she, Tina? They like to throw chairs. Not good throwing. And no offense, Tina, we're the same age, close or whatever. Back then, chairs weighed a lot. They weren't flimsy and lightweight, and they damn sure weren't plastic. Oh. Well, speaking of that, next week, I'm going to skip ahead for a minute here.
It's National Paddling Week.
I'll look into that a little bit. Next week, for reveal, I had what I'm going to call a productive auction last night. And I'm going to have to come in and show you guys some of my bounty.
Oh, you acquired some stuff?
I did, brother. I actually was successful last night, and I just happened to find some stashed away cash that I honestly didn't remember I had. And Brenda said, "Well, I have to tell this. I was going to wait, but I got to tell this part." The girls had an auction. It ended. My oldest daughter, my youngest daughter helps her, but technically, I guess it's Jennifer's company. They had an auction last week, and it ended last night. And the bidding everything started closing about 5 p.m. So I was sitting here. That's another reason I didn't get this finished. I'm sitting here waiting on these books because all I was bidding on was books. And and book ends, because I like to put book ends on my shelves, especially old ones. But Mark, they had a book. I don't know if we talked about you and I talked about some of the books, but they had a book. No, the Lewis and Clark book. Remember that?
Oh yeah, that Elliot Cowles wrote.
Yeah, the Cowles book. Well, that was only volume one of a set of 4, which they didn't have the whole set. And that kind of, at first I kind of thought, maybe I don't want to go there. But I did some research on that yesterday after we hung up. A full set of those books of that series Run somewhere around 10 grand.
Seriously.
And one of those books that's on the market for someone who's trying to complete a set goes for a couple of grand.
So you can maybe parlay that into.
Hopefully, maybe Brenda can when I die. But I couldn't pass it up, man. I just couldn't let that book go because here's a really neat thing about that. You and I've talked about this a little bit. That book, that particular book that they had was there were only 1,000 of those printed. Maybe
Yeah.
well now there's paperback books now that are reprinted
Right.
in recent years for I don't know if you can buy one today or not, but one year or later for academic purposes or something. But there were only 1,000, and that one was 482 or something. I mean, they're rare as hell, and I just couldn't pass it up. And I think that I got a really good deal on
And
it.
you stole it.
I didn't steal it, but I got it. I got it for a good price.
Yeah.
And I hope to be by next Saturday. I'll show you folks what that book's all about. That's the first time I've ever actually been able to sit down and really get some of the books that I wanted. And I pretty much got everything I wanted yesterday. The only book I didn't buy was that Wyoming book. Nothing personal, but I had a couple others that I thought were more important. As it turns out, golly, people, I'm sorry about my voice.
Did you get that Washington Irving book?
That was one of the other ones I didn't want to let pass. They had two. They had two books about Theodore Roosevelt written in his time, and I looked those books up, and both of those books are generally valued in the upper hundreds of dollars,
Right.
and which I didn't realize they would be. So I laid claim to both of those. I got really good deals on those, but in comparison, but I paid more for that Lewis and Clark book. I really wanted that book because I don't know, for some reason Lewis and Clark and their stories have always kind of been heroes to me. Growing up, one of the very first library books I ever read was a book about Will Clark, and
Yeah.
and ended with him and Meriwether Lewis going out west. So it's just always been that's always stuck with me. It's always been important. And so I really wanted to get that book, and I did. By God, I did. So I'm going to show it to you. I remember a kid next to me sleeping on the desk. Teacher picked. I didn't get all that, Ian. I'm thinking you either changed your mind because it's retracted over here, or you decided not to say it. Something about that you didn't finish. Anyway, I'm really excited about that, and I'll show you what I got next Saturday. I'll do a little show and tell, and I'm really excited about those books. I think I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid, but I love books. Books are sacred to me, and these books in particular, I think are going to be. I can't wait to read that the Irving book. I don't know why, but after I thought about that and you and I talked about it, I realized that might be a really cool book. I mean, he wrote that book after he took a trip in 1832. Washington Irving, who we're talking about.
And that book is not even listed on his, like, if you go to Wikipedia or whatever, is one of his.
Really? I didn't think about that.
Like his, list of accolades. It's not listed in that, and it's like they don't know. They don't know much sometimes.
Keep talking because I'm gonna see if I can get the full title of that while we're talking about it. Welcome, Tim.
What am I supposed to talk about?
Well, just you know, be
Washington Irving. I can't talk about. Didn't he? Who did Ichabod Crane?
he did.
He did. That's what I thought. They didn't even have that one listed, and I'm like, really?
Oh wow, that is unusual. Oh come on now. Well, maybe I can't. I guess I'm not gonna be able to. I get. Oh, here it is. Maybe.
That's not the name of the.
Yeah, here they are. But let me see if I can find the
Maybe
name.
it was just a chapter in some
This,
book.
he wrote this one was no, he didn't write. I'm not sure exactly when he lived. I haven't looked that up yet. But this book was about. It's called Washington Irving on the Prairie, and the full title is because it's got a cool full title, of course. Washington Irving on the Prairie, or a narrative of a tour of the Southwest in the year 1832.
Wow.
And actually, it's about he's in it, but actually, Mark, here's where I screwed up. It was actually written by a guy named Henry Leavitt Ellsworth, who sounds really familiar too. So I need to find out about that part. But anyway, it's Washington Irving's in a trip that he took in 1832.
Oh, so it's by a different author
Yeah,
talking about.
I spoke wrong about that. It's about his trip. So I'm hoping it. I believe if I looked right, it has notes and maps things from his trip. But
Cool.
somebody else wrote this particular version of it. In 1937, it's first edition of that year. But it's
I just want to know where he went at that early period.
that's what I think that's what really got me was when I realized it was 1832. I really wanted to read about it because his impressions of that part of the country in 1832, I think, are going to be very interesting. What else is in here? Here's a couple of more modern books that I just thought were interesting, and I got cheap. And they were a couple of them. I think were all about World War II in Alaska, which you don't read about much. And I thought that would be because they're firsthand accounts. I believe either written by someone who was in the military or a reporter embedded with the military at that time in Alaska. So I thought that might be an interesting book. And let's see, one's called Pursuit of the Horizon. That's a first print.
When the Japanese were attacking the Aleutians.
Oh, I know what it was. I didn't tell you about this book. And it was written by Lloyd Haberly, but it's called The Pursuit of the Horizon, and it's the life of George Catlin and his adventures of the West. And his George Catlin, painting and recorder of the American Indian.
Cool.
Got a bunch of stuff by Catlin in it. It's about Catlin. Again, that is one I didn't want to pass up. That one I didn't even pay much attention to till after we talked yesterday, and I started reading about it more. And I thought, man, I want this. I want this bad. And the two Roosevelt books were Roosevelt and the Badlands,
when he was in North Dakota,
and the other one was by Thayer, William Roscoe Thayer, who's wrote a bunch of other books, and it's basically Theodore Roosevelt's biography. One of the first ones I think ever written, if I'm not mistaken. I think I read that somewhere else. and it's worth $1 or $2 also. So, these are pretty interesting books from which part are you laughing about? Can you get
Peanut, where you went like this and you didn't wince in pain.
well, that's true. I didn't.
You just went like this and you didn't.
And now, right here hurts. I'm going to be honest. This is about far, but when I did it real quick, sometimes I don't think about it till later. I've done that a couple, but it's getting much better. That's why the doctor says I'm well on my way. And I mean, I couldn't do this a couple weeks ago at all.
You don't have no brace on your wrist either.
Do what?
You don't have a brace on your wrist.
No, it still hurts a little bit right across here at times.
It's gonna hurt like that the rest of your life, dude.
Oh, I know it will. Well, see, if it hurts like that the rest of my life, I can bitch and complain and brag about it that way. I mean, there's not many people that get bucked off a lawnmower and live to tell about it,
And immediately attacked by yellow jackets.
Yeah, you just have to throw that in.
That's the best part of that story.
I think I told the doctor about that.
Wrecking your lawnmower and then the bees attacking you and you rolling down the hill to put them out.
And I think it was somebody, the doctor or somebody, I told about that. And I said something about, that certain friends of mine thought that was the really best part about the bees. And they said, I think you need to get new friends. I said, no, you don't understand.
They don't understand.
That's so ironic. Maybe that's not even the right word.
They've all gone through it too.
Exactly. It wouldn't be near as funny if you hadn't been there. If I didn't know you'd done it too in some flat.
I'm the only person I know that had a horse bucking underneath me, and I'm like, why are you bucking?
Oh, yes.
And then all of a sudden, there they were, like they were already on her, and then they crawled on me, and I don't know how many times I got stung, but it was way too many.
Well, one's way too many as far as I'm concerned, because I'm not. Well, hornets and yellow jackets. Oh,
yellow jackets are awful, and they were biting me. You know how they like bite you and sting you at the same time.
I saw one
on the back of my head and on my neck, and went down my shirt. And I finally had to give up the ghost, and I rode her for about, I don't know, 20 seconds, and then I was like, I got to get down.
And Ian, remember what we said months and months and months ago? You ain't lived till you've had a bunch of yellow jackets up your pant leg or down your shirt, neck of your shirt, buddy. So I can promise you, we've lived in that respect more than either one of us ever wanted to. I'll never forget those seeing yellow jackets stuck to a guy, or maybe me actually, as we were hiking up from the campground down Rock Creek campground near Irwin or Unicoi up the beauty spot. And somebody knocked a yellow jacket's nest out of the bank along the trail. And it was a cold October day. And those things were dying, so they were mad. I still believe when they start to die, they get really mad. And I'll never forget seeing one stuck on my arm with his stinger embedded in me, and he couldn't pull loose from it. So he was just sitting there just biting. And I thought, oh, you are evil. So I have a question for anybody on here. If my wife's on here, which I don't see her lately, but there's a TV show called The Yellow Jackets, and it's sort of like I've been told, I don't watch it. What was the story about the kids that got trapped on the island? Most of us read it probably in.
Oh, The Lord of the Flies.
Lord of the Flies. Or had to read it in school or something at one time or another. Anyway, apparently there's a a TV show out called Yellow Jackets about a group of people that get stranded, something like that, from an airplane crash. And Ian said he still hasn't lived. Well, you know what? You know what, Ian? Maybe I hope you never have to, buddy. Um, in that regard. But they named it the yellow. They're called the Yellow Jackets, and I just wonder if it has anything to do with how vicious Yellow Jackets are.
So it's interesting about bees. When we were in Africa, there's a little bee over there that makes honey. They call them opani bees. They're just little tiny. They're like the size of a sweat bee.
Huh. And they
And
make honey.
they were reported to me as stingless.
Oh.
And we were in the back of the vehicle one day driving out to somewhere we were going to go hunt, and I was looking over the cab of the vehicle, and one of those landed in my tear duct.
Oh no.
And I can tell you for a fact that they're not stingless. That sucker went to work, and I was like, holy crap, that hurts. And I got him out of my eye, and they're stingless because I guess they can't get you through your skin, but they darn sure have a stinger and venom. And my eye all puffed up there in the corner, and that was a weird little deal. Nobody else got it though, of course.
Of course.
My wife has still gone through her entire life with not one time being stung by a bee.
I don't see how that's possible. how can I mean, what happened when she got knocked the wasp nest down in the barn or something? She never got stung then either. I mean, come on.
We don't have them. we don't have like wasp nests hanging in the barn like we did back home. There's just none of that here. We have bees in the summertime a little bit. We've got bumblebees, and we've got, if we're lucky, we got a few honeybees flitting around.
And you do have yellow jackets.
And then we have a bazillions of yellow jackets. If you go to the mountain and you hunt meat, that the people out here call them meat bees. If you kill something and hang it in a tree, you're going to have lots of yellow jackets in camp. They're just, and we always have to set them up and like take a sage grouse carcass or something and hang it out way outside of camp, and they'll go attack that instead of being in camp trying to crawl into your Pepsi can or whatever. But yeah, we got a lot of them, but not. She's just never been stung by a bee.
Oh wow, I can't.
They just like her.
On my ears. I mean, there's an orange paper wasp back here, that builds a little paper nest, and they like to build them in the corners of garages and things. But they used to, apparently, some versions like to build right above the garage door.
Yeah.
Open the garage door, they drop down and sting you right here behind the damn ear. And God, that hurts. And I'm trying to figure out something. I do like that hashtag not a bee. That is appropriate. But I don't know if I was a young lad playing soccer and a bee got me. Never been. Oh, I got it. He's questioning. Never been stung. Well, I've met a couple of people said they never got stung, but I mean, running barefoot when I was running barefoot through a yard.
You got stung by bees all the time.
I mean, you always stepped on at least one or two honeybees every year on the clover that stung you in the bottom of the foot or something. I mean, that's just how it was back here.
And their stingers come out. They only get you one time and then they're done. But
and now what?
Unlike a yellow jacket, which can sting you over and over and over,
and bite you over and 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 over while they're at it.
Because they're a little wasp or a little hornet kind of critter.
That they are. They're little devils, is what they are.
Remember them good news bees, those cicada killers? Troy and I found a nest of those one time.
They look kind of like a big bumblebee, right?
One was like a great big
Or a,
orange and yellow wasp,
yeah, yeah,
striped. And
right.
I was big into insect collecting then, and I wanted one for my collection. And so I walked over to their nest in the side of a tree. It was in a split in the side of a tree, and I knocked one down, and I couldn't find him. And so I knocked another one down, and I reached over to get him and stepped on the first one. And that's the only bee I've ever swelled up from. My foot swelled up great bit. Of course, I was barefooted, of course.
Good afternoon, Dave. Is it afternoon, really? I didn't think it just is noon. Good afternoon, Dave. I guess are you getting ugly weather like we are? And then Blue Nose has a story. And yeah, I said I had this worker wasp come in my house one time. It was actually nice. I fed it some peach. It landed on my arm and never stung me. Well, good for you. my experience would be they'd eat the peach and then they'd sting me and leave. That's how it worked for me. I just firmly believe they would not pass up the opportunity to nail me on the arm.
And I like them. I've had them crawling, like yellow jackets and things crawling on me, and not, they just come into camp or whatever, and they just like land on your hand or whatever, and they wander about, and it's like, okay, we're going to be pals here. And
well, Dave, it's not too
but
cold.
when they go up under your clothing, if they crawl up your shirt sleeve or something, that's when they're like, they feel, I don't know if they feel trapped or what, but that's when they go to work.
Yeah, it could either be that they're trapped and it's that's just what they do, or it could be that they're just overjoyed and just want to get this opportunity to make you suffer.
It's just that they're just evil.
'Cause I just firmly believe they are.
I can tell you, like when you're out in the woods looking for ginseng or something, and you got on bib overalls, big old wide bottom bib overalls, that when they run up that pants leg, it's like 30 of them.
Yeah, they don't do it they just don't do it by
It's
themselves.
like a whole war party of yellow jackets, and they.
And I'm not sure how we got here, but since we are, I mean, I don't know how many people
We talked about bees a lot on this
we
show.
do. I don't know how many people I've known over the years that were mowing their yard, walking along in their as my friend Steve Contra would say, their ice cream breeches, which was short pants, and just get all over their legs because they ran over it with the lawnmower, and they all come bowling up out of a hole in the ground and got whoever was the closest they could find.
Or them little bitty tiny bumblebees. God almighty. Oh.
I got nailed by one of those little emerald looking bees one time that live in the ground too. And one of them got me, kind of like your tear duck story.
Well, you remember those cow killer ants?
Yeah.
They're like that long, and they're red and black.
Yeah.
And fuzzy looking. They're a wingless wasp.
But they ain't stingless. Some of them aren't.
They are not stingless. There's a reason they call them cow killers. They can pound you.
I'm gonna show you a picture of one. That's a Motilia occidentalis. Maybe, as I believe the name. Let me see if I can just pull this up on the big screen, and I'll show you a picture of one. First time I ever saw one of these, I was absolutely fascinated.
Yeah, they call them velvet ants or cow killer wasps.
Something like that one right there.
And they will pound. That if you get stung by one of them, it hurts bad.
Oh boy, does it ever! Did that come up on the screen?
Yeah, yeah, it's a beautiful photo of it.
Okay, that's out of Wikipedia. I'll give them full credit. But yeah, those and they're big. They're bigger than just
They're
any ant
about
we
that long.
Yeah, I used to think the big black we had big little black ants and little all color ants, but we had a larger black ant that you'd see around trees. I did, and I don't remember them ever being any real threat or anything. But this bee was much bigger. Or this, I mean, ant. But this ant we're talking about was much bigger than that ant.
Yeah, it's a wasp. It just doesn't have wings.
Do we have somebody else in there? All right, there's the other Dave. Welcome in, other Dave. Um,
Those big old black ants, those are the ones that I always like. If my sister's around and I happen to be back in the east, I'll be out there with a straw, poking down in their hole and pulling them big black ants out and eating them.
Oh, jeez.
Just to make my sister gross out.
I don't know if
They taste like lemon drops, dude.
Oh well, yeah, that's. Although I'm not sure I've ever eaten one, but I've heard that. Maybe from you.
There was one on the table in Mom's house one day crawling across, and I just reached over and grabbed it, throwed it in my mouth. And my sister Lisa was sitting there. And I was laughing, and that thing like bit into my tongue.
Because they can bite. They do have mandibles.
And they have a great big head, and it bit me in the tongue. And my sister's like, "See, you shouldn't do that."
We had obviously the show
Jade ants for thousands.
The intellectual or educational part of the show's over.
Yeah,
but it depends on how you look at it. When I was growing up in the yard, when I was about 9 or 10, my dad got sick. He had they thought he had some serious heart problems when I was about 9, 8 or 9. And I started mowing the yard then. That's when I learned to mow. And in the one place we had that we lived for the longest time, you know where Mom and Dad lived down there in Jonesboro.
Yeah.
Before we moved into that house, we had a big garden spot and some other big maple trees in the yard, but there was this one place down between the maples and the garden that just seemed like this loose dirt, all in it. Not a mound, but just kind of loose dirt all over. And I'll never forget the first time I ran over that, because it just looks like grass growing up through this dirt.
Right.
It doesn't look like anything to worry about. I'll never forget the first time I rolled across that thing with the lawnmower, because suddenly, I felt them first because they were on my legs, but the whole ground just seemed to boil, and all those big black ants would come out of that, and they would just cover anything around them. I'll never forget that thing. And that nest, whatever you call it, was there for years. I mean, they were there till we moved, I think. We never tried to kill them really, because they didn't, other than the fact that they weren't that much fun to run across with a lawnmower. They never really hurt anything that I could tell. But I mean, they just would. I would do stuff sometimes because I was that kind of kid. Take a stick and start around in there real quick and then, run. They would just come out of the ground. It was amazing to watch. It really was. So insects or grandmas hurt more. Oh, hell.
Grandmas.
Yeah, insects hurt. Don't get me wrong. But, because if you get right down to it, when your grandma beats you or spanks you, there's a little bit of heartbreak in that, there's just a little bit of personal pain that your grandmother would inflict such pain upon your little body. But other than that, and we know bees have a different
Yeah,
kind of.
there's way more emotional
Yeah,
in,
there's more emotion attached.
in, in
Exactly.
the grandma part than
I mean, a damn bee you're going to swat anyway and kill if you can, but you can't kill your grandma. I mean, you can't get even. So I'd say grandma pain hurts worse.
You're talking about those ants. If you fly over this country, if you're like low altitude flying over this country, there are ant, or you're just walking out there in the sagebrush in the desert, there are ant mounds everywhere. And some of those ant mounds would be, I mean, they're old enough that they have beads, Native American beads in the mound and little bits of chert, and I mean they've been there forever. Some of those colonies have got to be hundreds and hundreds of years old, I would think. But
You talking about Africa or out here?
here, here in Wyoming,
And
yeah, I
those are
mean, if you fly over a 1 mile square of ground out here, you'll see hundreds of ant mounds.
how high do they get out there?
They get up, if it's down in the river bottom country, they'll get up to, you know 2 or 3 feet tall. If it's up in the desert, they'll be maybe a foot high, maybe a little higher than that, maybe 18 inches.
So we get
But they're
fire ants.
just made out of rocks. They just look like
They just
little
pile
rocks,
up.
and they pick up beads while they're doing that. And, anything round and shiny, they go for. And it's just pretty cool.
Oh, so you actually find? I've heard you.
Yeah, guys like sift those.
Yeah.
Some of the archaeologists and things that are working on a study somewhere will sift those ant mounds, finding beads and all kind of cool stuff.
Ian said, Africa or Wyoming? That's a fun question you don't see often.
And they have lots of ants over there too.
Oh, and great big. Well, actually,
And
they're
they have termite mounds that are like 15 feet tall.
gigantic and hard, aren't they? They're like concrete, aren't they?
Just like concrete. They're amazing. The first one I saw, I was so excited. And the guy that was driving us up to the place we were going to hunt said, "Oh, those are ants." I'm like, "BS, buddy. I've been reading about this my whole life. Those are termites."
Well, which reminds me, and I don't know if I can pull this up on my screen or not. But Mark made some international fame as far as I'm concerned. He
What do you mean?
You got on some pictures with Stanley Petersley's that he's put out.
Oh yeah, about bird hunting in Africa.
Yeah, about bird hunting in Africa. I thought that was really cool. You and Creekmore both, yeah.
Yeah.
When I first saw the picture, once I realized it was you, because I looked over it first time, I thought, "What is this?" But I thought it was you and Petersley, but it was you and Creekmore in the picture, I think.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool. I said, "Hey, I know that guy."
And then the guy that was one of our hunters, a guy named Mechanic, black gentleman from South Africa named Mechanic. I think he's probably from Zimbabwe, but I asked Stanley if that was his given name, Mechanic, and he goes,
"Oh yeah,"
and he said no, and I said, "Well, what's his real name?" And he goes, "He's worked here for over 20 years, and I have no idea."
I don't know. I can't tell how much ink.
But we didn't get to eat those birds because I was like, "Oh shoot, I need to go clean those birds that were in the bed of the truck."
They were gone.
And And Stanley goes, "Oh, don't worry, they're gone." And I'm like, "Well, what happened to them?" And he's like, "Well, mechanic took them, and his kids are eating them right now."
So you fed somebody else's
And
dinner.
I'm like, "Well, I'm okay with that."
I can see that.
Double-banded sand grouse. They
Hey,
fly. They fly like bats.
I
Never,
didn't know
never
hyenas
seen anything like it. They come in like this,
just like a bat.
just like a bat, or yeah, more like a bat than a swallow, but pretty close to like a barn swallow would fly like, only quicker.
Okay, I can tell you that you missed a short talk. I can't say it was a full talk about um, the Scots Irish American culture are coming over here, and then beyond that, we've chased a squirrel or two this
We've
morning.
been squirreling for an hour now.
Grandmas can be. Ian said grandmas can be mean. Insects can hurt. You and families had cool. Oh, wait a minute. What is it? I can't read this. Grandmas can be mean. Insects can hurt you, and families had. Oh, yeah, that's what you missed because we were talking about
That's
family
what she's.
Bibles.
That's what Ian's learned today.
Ian, you've done a good. That was a good job in summarizing, buddy. So we talked about families that had Bibles all the way back from maybe when they migrated from Scotland, so which is kind of cool.
Oh my!
And we learned what hurts more, Kay. Bees. Oh, Blue Nose wants Kay to answer this question: which hurts worse, more, bees or? And if you give the wrong answer, you have to kind of explain why. Tina said lots of buggy squirrels. And I'm going to be honest with you. When I first read that, I thought you meant like horse and buggy. So I was trying to. What do you mean? We had a buggy full? See, that could work both ways.
You went right into back into the horses. Here we go.
Right back into horses. We did talk about horses a little tiny bit. Carol said, "Kate, I want to see the Scots slides." I think they started at about 15-minute mark. Yeah, maybe or a little after that. I didn't have many slides today, Kay. I was busy this week, and it was a Mark and I just thought about that topic yesterday, and I just didn't have time. Kay says, "I think Grandma's spanking in her." Exactly, Kay. You got it right there. You nailed that.
Horse trailers front.
Is the correct answer. Ding, 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 ding. Although you didn't form it in the form of a question, but still, we'll take it. Horse trailers for Diana. Now that's a vision.
Oh my!
World-size horses in a tiny horse trailer. I'm not sure why, but that's just really funny, Ian. I have a visual. Oh no, Tina said that. I have a visual now that I may not get out of my head for years.
I'm gonna take off, folks.
You gotta go.
I'm gonna go.
Well, you go.
We got company coming, and I'm gonna go.
All right. Well, you have a good rest of your weekend. Enjoy your company if that's possible.
It will be good.
All right. We'll see you later, buddy. Thanks.
All right.
Have a good one. Be safe out there.
See everybody later.
And since I realize the time, I think I'm going to start winding down because my voice and my throat have had about all they can take today, I think. But my headache's eased up, so it's been worth it. Have to work next Saturday, so may tune. Oh well, Ian, that'd be good. Good to see you though, buddy. We don't get to see you near enough. What else am I missing here? Just everybody saying bye to Mark. Not for me. Diana's just ain't gonna have nothing to do with them horses or a horse trailer. Well, guys, everybody out there, I hope you have a decent weekend. Although I don't know how many. I think a lot of folks that are in this room are going to have the same basic weather we got, kind of gloomus, as Brenda says, rheumacy, gloomacy, or something to that effect, something she learned off Gilligan's Island. Maybe between now and then I'm going to go visit Walt Disney World for a few days. But, well, that'd be fun, Ian. Between now and next week, whoa, 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 whoa. Are you hinting that you're about to take a trip? Are you saying sometime in the far future or very, very near future? You can't throw something like that out on the floor, Ian, and not either sweep it up or dance around it, because we need to know about that. Leaving tomorrow, man. If I didn't like you so much, I'd call you a rat bastard or something. Brenda and I have talked. We want to go down for a few days. I just don't know when we're going to make it, but we hadn't been in 10 years, so I really want to go. It seems like you're getting stuff up. I don't know how with you just coming off the show. Well, Tina, I'm not able. Some things were moving along, and then this all happened, and it has slowed me down. I can move some things around now if I don't have to lift them. I tell you, the next really big change is there's going to be some things rearranged, but the next really big change is going to be my bookshelves. And I have 3 bookshelves sitting down in the garage right now that Brenda was going to help me paint so we could put them up here. And the weather's been so either cold or rainy or yucky that we hadn't been able to get them painted yet. But so I'm hoping we get some nice days here coming up pretty soon, at least semi-warm days, and we can get those in here. And that's going to make a huge difference, because part of the problem with the way things are now is I've got boxes of books back here that I don't have a place to put yet. So as soon as I can put those on shelves, it's all going to be rearranged. The couch is going to get moved around, and there's just I have this one lamp that you can see right here that I really like when I'm sitting on the couch here reading. And I've got 2 more of these old lamps that I picked up at auction that I'm in the process of changing the switch on one, and actually one of them may be ready to go, except for it may need a switch too. But once I get that, then I've got some more lamps I'm hoping to put in this corner. I have a chair which you can't see, but I've got 2 chairs just like their old wingbacks that I got from the girls that were at an auction that didn't sell, and they just wanted to get rid of. The lady just wanted to get rid of them. So I got those, and I'm hoping to set those 2 chairs up back there with one of these other lamps like this one in between them, so that I can set up a little reading area. So when I've got some big plans if I ever get it done. Diana said, if you wait a few more years, Tim, we'll come with you. Well, okay, Diana, that's probably more likely than you think. It may be that long. I just don't know yet. We've talked about it a little bit this year. We really thought about it. I've got a vacation thing coming for using Hilton hotels just a couple of days. Nothing special. And we thought about doing that in Florida, but we decided not to, because I'm just still not that mobile. So instead, we're going to go to Gatlinburg. We are going to Gatlinburg for the first time in years, and we're staying in a hotel there for my birthday. Is Ian leaving? Gonna spend 4 days at Pop. Oh yeah, at Pop Center, in 3 days. I'd like to stay at Pop. I've never been to Pop. Brenda has, but it was before they put the Skyliner in. So I kind of like to stay there on the Skyliner, but just because it gets me around to some of the parks I really want to go see. And I've never been on the Skyliner, and I hear good things about it, but I've not ridden it yet. So I still have a question, and this doesn't seem to be an issue. But has anybody in here ridden that thing when it's really hot outside? I mean, is it really bearable inside those cars without air conditioning? Kay said, "Oh, it has been a little while since I've been to." I wish this was the time of year when people would come up. We'd go down to Gatlinburg and have a picnic or something. Tina says the Skyliner's wonderful. So even in the summertime, Tina, it's cool or cool enough. I mean, that's what when they first put it in, that was a big question. No air conditioning. People were concerned about it being, I mean, because let's face it, it can get hotter than hell in Florida. And I don't, I just wondered. I thought maybe they'd be really hot, miserable. I know if they're not moving, it's pretty bad. Yes, as long as it's moving, Skyliner is very comfortable, even at 90. Well, that's cool. That's interesting. Yeah, Dave, we do too. I mean, we do need to. According to Stream, Skyliner gets really hot. I don't. I think if it's moving, you'll be okay. Ian, from what I've heard from, and Tina just said that at least up to 90 or so. Uh, like I said, let's face it, it gets hotter and blazing in Florida, and even worse these days. But there's nothing like. I mean, just getting out of the sun down there is usually you get some relief because that sun, the angle of the sun, rotation of the earth, the atmosphere, all that crap. You're closer to the equator, no sun rays come really down and intense. Yeah, there are vents. I know there are vents in the top and stuff that are supposedly. Well, I mean, they've been using these things in Europe for quite some time, so or those things. But I mean, now it's been up for what? Geez, I don't even know if I can get 3 or 4 years, or at least 2 or 3. Oh, okay. I remember wing windows. Some folks in here may not. Diane says she figures it's not that long a ride, so it's probably taller, believable. Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, let's face it, when you're in one of those things, you're either looking down, looking at what you can see, and you're preoccupied that way, or you're excited about where you're going. So all that makes a difference. I know when they first put it up, they had a couple of mechanical issues, and people got stuck in them, and that was supposedly kind of rough. But I've not heard anybody talk about it being shut down in a long time. Oh man, I didn't get. That's another reason I probably had a headache this morning. I did not get a great deal of sleep. I fell asleep twice last night and slept for a little bit. And then when I finally did, I thought I was going to be good. My stupid leg started cramping real bad, and I thought that was never going to end. So I didn't have that great of a night. I'd probably like to take a nap later. But at 1 o'clock, Chuck, we got hockey. If you're At least if you want to watch the Finns and the Swedes play, I think that'll be a good game. Personally, they both played when you put them together like that. Even though they're all NHL players, when you put them together like that in a team, they kind of play different hockey. I mean, they play it differently. Other than for weather, what hasn't been, it hasn't been. But if there's you mean shut down? If there's a storm coming, they shut it down in enough time to get everybody off. Well, that makes sense, I guess, Tina. I forgot about that. Chuck is already napping. We have a game tonight. Oh, you got a game outside of home tonight. What are those guys called? The Comets. No, that's not right, is it? I was up at 1 this morning, the Swedish. What? Blue Nose, I read that and I saw that, and then I realized what you were talking about. That it was just like running in your head, and that's that can't be fun. I mean, of all things, the Swedish chef rapping. Oh yeah, there are the comments. Okay, I'm still holding on to a few things, Tina. It ain't all bouncing straight through in and out. You know what? I'm a little chilly now. When I got up, it was in the 40s here today, and I don't know what it's actually got to now. I don't think it's going to get much. 44. That's probably about all we're going. That's probably about all we'll get because we're going to get rain. And I'd rather stay at 44 as 34 though. Oh boy, Chris. What? Oh yeah, the Swedish chef. Yeah, it is good to have a sense of humor about it. I will admit that. I guess the closest thing I could come to humorous about my leg might be somebody doing a tap dance. I could one-legged tap dance. It's usually just my left leg, and when it starts going, man, it's hard to. That's I take medicine for it, but and most nights it does the trick. But some nights I still get these god awful cramps, and it just kicks and carries on. So bad, Teddy won't. Teddy's has gotten where he sleeps with me more and more. But when my leg starts going, he gets up because he don't like that too much movement for Teddy. Oh, it's 24 up your way. Well, that is a burr. You can not to be mean, but you can probably keep that for now. Part of me wants to think we're past all that cold weather, but I doubt it. I I think I think Ryan Hall y'all is on to something, and I'm afraid we'll get a little bit of that nasty cold weather. Maybe not as much as you guys, Tina, but I think, and John, if you're still here. Yeah, it's nothing personal, Tina. It's just all about the weather. But at the same time, I don't. At the same time, I think I'll take it opposed to Florida because it's just I don't know what perpetual summer most usually is. I'm not sure I want that either. I hadn't talked about coffee in a while, but Tina sent me some coffee. Thank you, Tina. And I'm still trying to figure out my coffee brewing method in my coffee I've been drinking. And I actually spoke to a guy a week ago from Death Wish because I thought I'd cancel my latest order, and I found out that there's some on the way if it's not already on the front porch. And I called about it to cancel it, and when the guy asked me why, I told him, I said, because your coffee sucks lately. I said, I've not been satisfied with it. I used to really like it, but I just haven't been able to get a good cup lately. And he told me when it came in, for first off, he gave me a refund. The second thing was he asked me to take it when it came in the door, take a picture of the due date or the Best Buy date or whatever they call it on coffee, and then try it, and then get back in touch with him and let him know if I was happy with it or not. And if I'm not, they want to work on that. So I wonder if they've had other people complain, but I feel like my coffee from Death Wish has gotten stale, and it happened. I think I started noticing it as we came out of COVID. I think I've been drinking it that long. So I just wondered if they didn't have a lot left over and stockpiled after COVID, and it just got stale on them. I know it did me, because there for a little bit I got behind and I was getting too much coffee and I had to get that stopped. So some of it wasn't getting, and I drink a lot of coffee, and it wasn't getting used up fast enough. So I think if I change, I think I'll probably go to this Phillips coffee Phillips supplier. His what do you call people that do drugs? His dealer, and he was roast locally, and that way I know exactly when it's roasted, and I know exactly how old it is. Oh, we're gonna get a lot more before we're done. We have 2 more months of winter left. Only two? Or they're maybe pulling fil- fillers in it. I don't know. Maybe, Diana. I thought about that too, which would disturb me if that's the case. Although they won't admit that, I'm sure. Coffee named that. Well, Ian, when I got started drinking it, I really liked it. And I know some other people that were drinking it that really like it. I don't know if they still are or not. But I don't know. Like I said, it just, something's not right. One of the reasons I grind my own coffee is because I like it really fresh. And usually it stays pretty good once, beans, unground beans stay fresh longer than ground coffee, because once you grind coffee, it immediately starts gassing off the flavor. And the older it gets, that's why I don't like coffee bought at the store in a can or a bag, because you don't know how long it's been around. And it could have sat on the back of a semi truck somewhere in Arkansas for 3 months before they got it to you. So I was afraid it might have been stale. Remember, we were well, Tina. I have to admit I think it is a little bit. It's not as good as what you sent me before. I didn't want to say that, but since you brought it up, um, the first batch you sent me was really good. This batch was, okay, but not as good as it was that first time. The first time you sent it to me, I thought I was going to have to be buying it from Utica, because it was really fresh, really good. And I might still consider that fresh coffee. Stay away from my work coffee. Explain, Ian. I could take that two ways. So I like Philip. I can blame my buddy Philip for this in a good way. He got me started drinking fresh ground coffee, grinding it at my house. And when he bought me some beans and a brush, and I got started anyway. I got started drinking it that way, and I can't stand it. I mean, I'm not a fan. I'll drink it. If I came to your house and you handed me a cup of just about anything, uh, I'm not gonna complain about it. I'm gonna drink it, and I've drank some. And working on an airplane, sometimes you drink some pretty old stale coffee, because whatever was on the pot when you walked into the break room is what you took, and you never knew how long that'd been sitting there. What is cake? I've heard of that. What's case saying? My mom used to have a guy deliver a brand called Standard Coffee. It was like they used. Oh, really, Kay? I don't know if I've ever heard of that. Standard Coffee sounds familiar, but I sure don't remember them ever doing it door to door. Now, we used to get milk door to door a lot. That was common. Oh, the coffee they give us in the back. Them beans been setting for a while, and they added extra acid for fun. I see, Ian. I'm trying to see what else I missed. I probably missed a lot today. Man, I'm glad my headache eased up. I can see it. I can read again. That was a nasty. I don't. It's and I think I figured out why. I've had a couple of days when I've been out, and the light got to me like that, and think I know why now. I got you, Ian. I see. See, I used to be in charge of the coffee pot at work, or a lot, so I tried to keep. I kept it clean a lot. Nobody else did. They just let it sit there and get to where you couldn't see through it. And it was, and there's really is a difference between what most people, including myself, refer to as strong coffee and stale and excuse me, and bitter or burned coffee. It's, I mean, I probably say, oh, that's strong, but I really mean it's old, and there's a difference in the two. And that's why I like Death Wish. When I first started getting it, it was seemed to me to be always very fresh, and that's what I don't think it is right now. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see what they do about it. I mean, well, I can't complain too much. They gave me my money back already, and I hadn't even drank it. But now they would like for me to try it and then get back with them on it. So I'm going to. As soon as it comes in, I'm going to dive in. Sorry, guys. Pardon me. Wow, man, I'm gummed up. You know, it's funny you should say that, Tina, because I've been known to drink back in my day, back in the day when I was working all the time. I could drink at least a couple of pots a day. And unless that's what's going on now, which I don't believe, I don't think that's what's keeping me up. But I've been known to drink a cup of Death Wish coffee, which is supposed to be the strongest caffeine wise out there. And I've read that in a couple places now. And then I just, go to bed. It doesn't seem to keep me up. Yeah, Blue Nose, that's a good point, and I agree with you about going into a place like that for coffee because you never know if it's been there. I mean, I've gone into there's a couple of places around here that sell a lot of fair bit of coffee, and they talk about keeping it clean and fresh and all that, but it really just depends on who's working there. I mean, they can let it get burnt and not throw it away, or they can not clean the pot very often. I mean, there's so many reasons why it can get that taste, and then you don't know if you're really getting the coffee at its best, or if it really just sucks. Chris, Circle K in Canada is disgusting too. Oh, they're both Circle K's. Okay. Well, guys, I don't know exactly what next week will be about, but I am going to do a show and tell with my auction prizes, so to speak. And I don't know. I'm sure that I may take one of those books, and that may be what the whole show's about. I don't know. I'm really curious about this Washington Irving book because that the fact that it's in 1832 really intrigues me, or that's when it was done and the trip was made. So that may end up being next Saturday show, but we'll see. I don't know. Hopefully I'll get back on track here. And I'm afraid I'm boring you guys to death. I feel like I'm running out of ideas, and but I think it's because I've had so much other stuff to kind of preoccupy my time with, like broken bones and not being able to type. And when I can't type, that kind of takes away this whole internet thing for me. Anyway, whoever's left out there, thanks for coming in. I'm gonna get off here and let you guys go have fun. And Chuck, I'll good luck tonight. Or you, Tina, you can tell him good luck for tonight's game, the Comets and the USA Canada game. And I think it'll be good hockey. Blue Nose, it's been great to have you in the room today. I really appreciate you coming by and spending a couple hours with us. And Tina and Chuck, you guys been here the whole time. Carol, thank you so much for dropping by. I know you got a busy life too. So, and Ian, it's always a pleasure, buddy. We miss you. I'm so glad to see you being able to come in today. And maybe we'll get to see you on a few more Saturdays. So anyway, everybody have a great rest of your weekend. I hope everything works out for you. Hopefully, where you're at, the weather won't be too bad. If it is, buckle down and stay safe. If we get the high winds here, we can crawl down in the basement. And if we get the rains, I don't think it'll affect us, but it certainly could affect our neighbors or nearby neighbors at least. So hopefully that won't happen either. North Carolina and East Tennessee doesn't need any more floods. Oh, the Daytona 500 this weekend. I forgot about that. So I don't follow NASCAR as much as I used to. When I worked in NASCAR, I was obviously following it a lot more. But I'll probably watch the 500 just because it's the 500. Anyway, see you guys. Everybody have a great day. Love y'all for coming in. It means the world to me. Hit that like button, which I hadn't even hit, and leave me a comment. I'm kind of curious. If you guys start leaving comments, I'm kind of curious what might happen. We'll see. Maybe I can get Brenda to start leaving me comments. Oh, that's cool, Kay. You'll have to tell us about that next week. Bye, guys.